everybody. It's the Cryptid Huntress. I'm Jessica Jones. And man, we have an interesting show tonight for you guys. Once again, we have a remote viewing target. We actually have two targets that we're going to talk about tonight that involve giants and sightings of potential giants that have been all over the internet, all over the news. I have one that I was tasked with about, let's say, what is today's date? About a week ago. Okay, so I've got this one. You guys might have heard of it. It was out of Colorado. And there were two ladies who had gone on a little vacation. They have in a picture what they they think is a 20-foot giant alien, hell crawler. I don't know, something odd. We're going to look at that tonight. And so that was one of my targets. And then also we're going to go over a target, and this is all on my Patreon, by the way. If you guys would like to see all the data, become a member of my Patreon. I want to thank all my Patreon members. Shout out to you guys. But we have another one, and it is the giant of that Andrew Dawson allegedly took. And I'm not saying he didn't take the video. I'm just saying it's an alleged giant in Canada. And I did not put any of this in the title because these are this is very controversial. And I did not want to get the attention of anybody that I didn't need to get the attention of. Okay. So we're going to talk about that. Actually, it is said, and there's been an obituary put out. Andrew Dawson began being followed, and his obituary came out shortly after that. And so we're going to get into that too. It's a very mysterious story. Okay. And I do have Dennis Carroll here, Dr. Dennis Carroll. And so we have a lot to go over tonight. So I'm not going to waste any time. I also am going to be talking about giants in general and all the different giants all over North America tonight. So if you guys would like to follow along with all of my shows, please go over to my website. It's thecryptidhuntress.com. All of my shows are there. You can catch up by just clicking all of the pictures of all the different thumbnails and shows. Also, I have updated my events list. So my calendar of events, I will be at the Fall UFO Conference here in Georgia at a place called Demarest up in North Georgia. We're going to be, I'm going to be one of the keynote speakers at the World UFO Conference coming up. And I think that's November. Okay, because that's the 2nd of November. And then on the 9th of November, I will be speaking at the Molina Bigfoot Festival down in Middle Georgia. And so I hope you guys, that is one of the best Bigfoot festivals, by the way, where they have the Elkins Creek Bigfoot down there. I will be going down to Elkins Creek soon. And I will have an update for you guys probably on Monday, on our Monday show. So please tune in for that. It's the home of the most famous Sasquatch foot casting in all of Georgia. Okay, so we're gonna go there. We're gonna talk about it. Hopefully, I can get my buddy on with Bigfoot Forensics to come talk about it. Maybe next week or the week after. I met him at the Squatch Out this past weekend, and he actually is going to be examining this cast pretty soon. And I'm going to be on location this week. All right, so anyways, those are some of the events I'm going to be at. There's many more. Go look at the calendar and come hang out with me. Okay, and come see me in person. Also, if you would like to follow along with all the data tonight, it is on my Patreon. There are two targets for tonight. And thank you to all my members on Patreon. You guys are amazing. And if I don't have your mailing address yet, please send it to me. If you haven't already sent it to me, please do. I do have our gift for this weekend for my VIP members. Okay, it's the VIP members that get the gift every month. So thank you guys so much for that. And also, yes, my shop is on sale, War Woman Goods. Thank you guys so much for all your support. I've sold a couple of items today, and the outpouring of support is just phenomenal. Thank you guys so much from the bottom of my heart. I appreciate it. All right. It helps me pay for all these trips I have to go on. Okay. So thank you so much. All right. Well, let's get to our topic tonight. We're going to be talking giants in North America. Around August of 2024, that's just 2 weeks ago, on August the 24th, Jesse Clausen and Camille Avarella were documenting their trip to long peaks in the Rocky Mountains of Colorado with photos and videos of their adventures. When they reviewed their footage after they returned home, they saw something that they could not explain. In the distant background, there was a pale humanoid figure about 20 feet tall, appearing to be climbing up the mountainside, clinging to the rocks. The picture is currently making the rounds across social media, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and there's a debate over whether the figure is a giant human, a pale crawler, an alien, or pareidolia. Okay, it could just be lighting on the mountain as well. So what exactly is this figure? Well, I have remote viewed that. That was tasked to me as a target about a week ago. I think about a week or two ago, whenever this came out. And I have remote viewed that. And also, I have a lot of targets put away, y'all, that I have not brought out yet. But since we did this show with Arkeem Ra on Wednesday, I believe it was yesterday, and we were talking about the Super Soldier program and whatnot, I thought this target would fit well for tonight because it's kind of a crossover a little bit. And so I did a remote. I'm going to go over the data and put it on my Patreon for the target of the Andrew Dawson giant out of Canada, which, by the way, is very controversial, as I did say in the beginning, because when you dig into it, there's a lot of weirdness going on with that one. However, he did record something on top of a mountain in Alberta, Canada. So to help me go over this tonight, I have Dr. Dennis Carroll here. He's a researcher and author, a field researcher on cryptids and UFOs. He's a demonologist. You can find him on his YouTube channel, Hunting the Shadows. Please help me welcome to the show my very good friend, Dr. Dennis Carroll.
Hey, good evening. I was just thinking about, giants, and it is a big, big subject, pun intended, of course. It is a big one, and it is one of the most fascinating ones that you will find in the annals of the paranormal. Absolutely.
For sure. Well, Dennis, there's been a video it's not a video, it's actually a picture that's been going around of what looks like, it almost looks like a pale crawler or some kind of alien crawling out of on top of or the side of a mountain in Colorado. It's an interesting picture. Okay. And there's a debate going on as to whether this is some sort of pareidolia, where people make the red circle around an area and they say, oh, there's a Bigfoot right here, but nobody could see it but them, that kind of stuff. I'm not making fun of that, y'all. I'm not. I'm just saying, y'all notice that I don't show the red circle pictures on my channel. I just don't. I'm a long time field researcher. And if I don't see it, I just don't want to put it on my channel. That's all. With all due respect. Okay. But there is a picture, Dennis, and I'm sure you've seen it by now, of what looks like an alien or some kind of pale crawler crawling up the side of a mountain in Colorado. What do you think about that?
Yeah, it's always a problem if you have to draw a red circle around something. Okay, usually, I like it to be very obvious when I'm looking at something like that. It really sticks out. Oh yeah, but that's the bad thing, Jessica, when it comes to pareidolia. And like I've talked about it before, it is a real thing. A lot of people go, oh, no, that's not something somebody made up, but it's not. It is a real thing. It's just what the human mind does, the brain does. When your brain's connected to your eyes, and it's trying to make an image or a pattern sometimes there, and we look for, whether we know it or not, our brain is always looking for patterns or pictures of something there, whether it's a face or a head or a leg or arms or whatever the situation is. It's always looking for that. And we got to remember that's one thing that really trip us up sometimes, because we can see images sometimes where there really is no image. I have seen a lot of people fall into that trap. But now when you got something like this picture here, it's a little, you can say that this is a little bit more than pareidolia. Okay. There's an obvious thing there. It's not just shades and shadows and all that much. When you see the close up of it, it does have some attributes to it that make me question this image. What I'd like to see what your input is. What do you think? What do you think about it?
Okay, so this is the picture that we're talking about. This is the picture in question. Okay,
It's the
hold
long
on.
shot. Yeah, the long
Yes.
shot.
All right, I am noticing. I just put in my earbuds in. I know my microphone is a little crackly for some reason tonight, so I apologize, you guys. So I'm going to try not to talk too loud, and I might have to log out and log back in just a minute because I am on my cell phone tonight.
That's fine.
This is an interesting picture because these two women had gone on a vacation. They were in Colorado. I mean, to me, this is interesting because I can't even see that hardly. Okay, until you blow it up. You got to blow it up. Apparently, they had taken a bunch of pictures. There was a sequence of pictures. These are the two ladies right here. That actually says longs on it, not bongs or anything like that. Okay, I believe it's longs because that is called the Longs Peaks. Okay, but I had to cut off the L when I put the picture up there. So they had gone on a little vacation. They'd taken a lot of pictures, and I believe they said that when they had their pictures on the big screen at their house, a big screen TV, and
that
they
is
noticed something odd in the background.
Here's the problem with a long shot like that. Your telephoto lens, is taking a photo of it. When you try to pull it in, especially when you look at something, I've done this in my career. I've looked at thousands and thousands of different kinds of pictures and video on top of that, hours and hours of it. But you got to remember one thing: when you pull in a long shot, you may have some pixelization going on. Okay, there may be some pixelization, and that may not give you what I call clarity on that object or subject that you're trying to take a picture of. If you have to zoom in on, now if you look at that very closely, it doesn't have a lot of clarity to it. That's what bothers me about it. It's not a very clear image. If you could zoom in a little bit more on it, you would see that it has a lot of pixelization or something going on with that. It's really hard to tell, but it like I say, it's got a strange look to it. And I would like to see the original photo. I would like to see the original photo and have it zoomed in and see what it looks like. That would be interesting.
It is. Well, this is just a really cool. It just the idea of them having this picture and then showing this thing that looks almost like when this is a picture. Okay, so these ladies had gone on Inside Edition. Okay, Inside Edition. I can't remember the name of the lady who is the host of that, but I met her at a conference a long time ago, and a super nice lady. But this almost looks cartoonish right here. I mean, I could not even find a picture that didn't look cartoonish of this. Like you're saying, it's really odd. This is a recreation actually from Inside Edition here, and so I wanted to give them credit, and I put this on the screen where they're just letting you see what they're talking about. In case you couldn't see it with your own eyes, they highlighted it and put some light underneath it. But that's what we're looking at now. They say that this figure right here, if you put it to scale, this would be 20 feet from foot to.
Well, it is.
Well, you can't really see it's good.
It is a definite humanoid looking figure. When you look at it in that spec, and perpendicular to size, that would definitely probably on the side of that mountain looking like that. And if you look at above it and all that stuff, it would definitely be around the 20-foot size, probably. Here's the bad thing about that, okay? And we gotta think about science here for just a moment. Science says that due to the gravitational field of this Earth, anything that gets over 15 feet in length or height is going to have a problem moving under the gravity of the normal gravity of the Earth itself. Because the bigger you get, here's the interesting, Jessica, and we got to remember this when you think about giants. The bigger the giant, the more gravity is pushing down on it. The slower it would have to slow it way down make it incredibly hard for it to just walk. Like you and I we take, we take for granted walking. We do it all the time, and but we have gravity pressing down on us. We can't beat the law of gravity, no matter what we try to do. The law of gravity is going to always be there. So when you start talking about things being 15, 20, 25 feet tall, you're talking about things that would have an impossible time walking in the Earth's gravity. That's
well, we also have Bigfoots. Okay, the Bigfoots are really tall. We hear about some of them being like in Alaska, are really big ones, and the Pacific Northwest. Of course, down here in the South where you and I live, I'm going to say they average, the ones that we experience and we encounter are like 7 feet tall, maybe. 7 foot is about like the going rate. Okay, 7 foot, 8, maybe 9. Okay, sometimes 6 feet tall. Not super big. 20 feet. That's huge. Okay, that's huge.
That is very huge. That's taller than, in other words, just to give you a thought on that, if you were 20 foot, you would have to kind of bend over to touch the top of a telephone pole. Okay, because most telephone poles are around 15 feet, 16 feet, something like that. So you're talking 20 foot. You're way over that, definitely. But here's the interesting, Jane Jessica, and I've said this about after having seen Sasquatch, and I know you've seen him as well. After you see it, you are struck by his size. Even 7 and 8 foot, we would consider a giant. I call them little giants, in that respect. That would still be gigantic to us, in that respect. Although there are human beings who have got that height, But like I said, I met one once who was a giant, and this guy was almost 8 foot tall, okay? But he had a hard time moving around. I'm saying that gravity has got something, the gravity is something you can't throw out with the wash water, okay? You can't throw the baby out with the wash water when it comes to gravity, and they've got to move under that. And I can say it's very much like you. I don't know if you've ever done this. I'm sure you have. If you've ever been under a swimming pool and walk underwater, you know what I'm talking about here.
Well, I don't walk on water, but I have walked underwater before. Yes.
You can walk underwater, but it's incredibly hard to do it unless you've got weights on, of course. You've got weights. Yeah, have you ever been skin diving? You know what I'm talking about. You gotta have.
I just had a flashback, Dennis. I had forgotten about this when I was at Georgia. I went to Georgia Southern University, and back in my day, we had to take PE, like physical education classes. So I was taking aqua aerobics. And let me tell you, when I was actually playing rugby for the college at the time, and I was taking aqua aerobics, and I was shocked at how difficult water aerobics is. And so what you're saying right now, like it actually is kind of hard to do things, and there's that resistance. Okay, it's all about the resistance of the water. So it's a really good workout. I remember that.
Well, that's what helps you when you swim. That's what helps propel you, is you can feel that resistance against the water. And that's what these guys are doing. The taller you are, the more resistance you have with the gravity. The gravity field itself pushing down on you. And that's why I say that's a very big problem when it comes to giants. If you ever encounter a giant, even as big as this one that we're supposedly looking at, 20 foot, he's not going to be a fast guy, okay? You may be able to outrun him, except he's taking a lot longer step than you are, okay? That might ease your space up if you're not a very fast runner. But they're going to be slow. They're going to be slow, definitely. And, when you look at the history of giants, Jessica, I mean, going all the way back in time, even to Odysseus and the Cyclops in the cave, who was very slow and lumbering. That's very close. Somebody somewhere at one time or another encountered a giant, because we have a lot of data on these guys. Okay. We have a lot of stories to talk about them and all this stuff. But I'm just saying, the bigger they are, the harder they fall. Okay.
That's right. And we have a lot of different directions this could go in tonight, right? And I think it's really cool that I was assigned this I was tasked as a target. I was sent some coordinates. Turned out to be this. this figure. Okay. And I think, I mean, I'd like to go over the data. I mean, I think that we need to kind of look at this from every angle, though, before I go over the data, because we do have giants in America, okay, and all over North America. And I want to talk about some of those giants tonight. Dennis, I know you're not going to be able to stay past 9 tonight because you've got another show to go on tonight. So I want to go over the 2 targets we did. And I'll talk about giants tonight after you leave, a little bit more in depth. But this could be pretty much anything. And I did mention Pareidolia, and I'm seeing a lot of people in the chat saying they think it's part of the mountain. What are the odds of this being part of the mountain as opposed to being an alien or something else?
Mhm. Well, there's a big connection with giants, mountains, and caves. Okay. And if a giant lived in the cave, he would definitely be kind of pale looking, like the pale crawlers we talk a lot about. We think they're coming out of caves. We think they're coming out of subterranean tunnels and stuff because that's what they look like, That would fit the bill. But looking at this picture in particular, I have to wonder if it's not some type of aberration on the side of the mountain or some kind of a growth area or what. Because if you look at it very closely, you're not seeing a head that should be there. There should be a head up above that. I don't know if it's bent over or what, but then and next to the image looks like a cave a little bit or some kind of indentation in the side of the mountain itself. That's very interesting. And if you look at the bottom of it, it looks like it's coming out of something or something. I don't know. Or either its leg is on something. If this is a figure of something moving on the side of the mountain, I got 2 problems with it. One, where is the other part of its leg and what's it doing with that? And 2, what's it doing on that kind of a side of the mountain? I mean, there's no way for it to really climb that area. If you look, you don't see a lot of rocks jutting out on the side. You don't see boulders or anything you can really grab onto to climb. You cannot just climb a sheer wall. I've done some mountain climbing, okay? You don't climb a sheer wall without driving spikes in it and to pull yourself up on it. I'm not going to get into the ramifications of that, but even a giant would have an incredible hard time climbing that side of a mountain that's very smooth looking like that one is, I would love to go there and see what the mountain itself looks like, put it that way.
I mean, it's beautiful out there. I would love to go. I've been to Colorado once, and it was on a layover. Okay, going to Nevada to the Spaced Out Radio fan party this year. The only time I've ever been in Colorado, I went to the Denver airport, and I was so upset that I could not find the Illuminati basement doors. Okay, so, but anyways, I was there. I have friends who live there. This is just really fascinating to me with this figure right here, but. I'm with you, I mean, and I do think that knowing that we have Sasquatch that are pretty stealthy and that are really bulky and big, and I saw Renee, hey Renee's in the chat. He said that, even if when they're bulky like Sasquatch, they can move, they're pretty agile. Okay, they're pretty agile. However, this thing doesn't look like a Sasquatch. It looks, if this is a being of some sort with a body and a consciousness, it looks more like a rake. I think Maureen told me that today. The girl in her gong, Maureen said it looks like a rake. It looks like an alien. It looks like something different, a pale crawler potentially. But I do have some interesting data, and I think maybe we should go ahead and go over the data of this. Let's just do it right away because I think it's going to give us some. I think it's going to give us some good indicators as to what this might be. And
maybe this is a mama or daddy pale crawler. Okay, maybe all the pale crawlers we've been seeing are kids, and this is the mom or dad.
I think it's the final boss, right?
Yeah,
the final boss yeah. Pale crawler. Okay, if it is. So this is a really interesting target because I was sent a set of coordinates, and I started when I got into this target, Dennis, I was seeing very clearly a land mass. Okay, a landmass is what I wrote down. Something that was massive. It was, I wrote down dark, seasoned, pointy, jagged. Some of my sensory data, deep, death, active. I wrote down skittish, mobile. I was almost seeing something that I was seeing a landmass first off. Okay, and I wrote down landmass, a wall. I wrote sideshow. I wrote down Montana. Okay, that was part of my data as well. It was somewhere out west. I did write down Montana. I wrote down jagged edges and plunger. Okay, plunger. I wrote down. I heard go away. So I heard a voice say go away when I was remote viewing. I also heard there's activity inside. Okay, activity inside was something that I heard. And then I also wrote down brass, which is interesting because when I write down brass, a lot of times I attribute that to like top brass or like military stuff. Okay, military. But I just wrote down brass. There's other data too, but this is the most important parts here. But I wrote down cave. Okay, that was part of my data. And I drew something that kind of looks like a cave and like a wall with a cave in it. All right, so there's no mention of any kind of being yet. However, one of my ideograms was an animal. Okay, so one of my ideograms was an animal, but that doesn't mean there was an animal there. That was just one of my ideograms that I wrote in my stage 2 part of my remote viewing data. Now I wrote down remote and isolated, slippery slope, hidden agenda, hidden history. I did write down. And I wrote down hiding in a cave. I thought I was looking at a mesa or a mountain. And I actually started picking up on ancient Egyptian remote viewing data. So I wrote down obelisk, Egypt, and ancient Egypt. And that was pretty much the whole target right there, Dennis. There was no any kind of indicators in my data of any kind of extraterrestrial, ultra-terrestrial, pale crawler, Sasquatch, or giant in this data. It was all landmass for the most part. So do you think that would make sense?
It sounds to me, Jessica, like you're picking up on, for one thing, you're picking up on maybe an underground base of some sort, something going on in an underground base. That would be the brass, would be interested in that. Definitely something. And you're talking about the plunger thing and all that. That sounds very much like how they would go up and down in the bases. Supposedly, they use a tram-like system going up and down, and supposedly in these underground bases, you could say that was a plunger-like type thing. Okay, that sounds interesting to me. And another thing I think you're picking up on is the civilization that maybe this thing has come out of, or it's associated with. And here's something very interesting for you. Just this past week, I'm big in archaeology. Okay, I'm always watching archaeological stuff. They actually found, I think this past week or two ago, out somewhere in the Midwest. It might have been around Montana or somewhere like that. I can't remember exactly. They actually found a rock in a lake with a carving of an Egyptian motif on it of the did you remember hearing about that, Jessica? That's very strange.
Well, if you really dig deep into our history, first of all, nothing is what we're taught. But I have actually looked into some of these man-made lakes around the South. And there's one in particular, the lake that I used to go to. I went there when I was a kid with my family. My mom's best friend had a boat there on this lake called Lake Norris. That's in Tennessee.
Oh yeah.
And when you look into the history of Lake Norris, there's actually there was an ancient Egyptian settlement there where the lake is now. Now, to me, the question is, was it purposely covered up? Okay, why did they choose to put that lake there in that spot? The Historical Society knew about it. The local archaeologists went in and did their survey of it. It's well documented, but then it was all covered up. Like, that is very important as far as our history goes. Why would they cover that up, Dennis?
Yeah, that was associated with some of the Lovelock caves And also some of the caves and stuff in the Grand Canyon supposedly has that Egyptian connection to it. Matter of fact, it was even alluded to in the movie National Treasure. That they talk about that the second movie, I think. But anyway, it is interesting. There is a connection, and like you say, we've been lied to for a long time. Okay, they have been telling us a lot of big lies here, and one of them is definitely the history of this country, of this nation, and I think it's completely different than what we've been told. Of course, I think we've been told a lot of lies, but I won't get into that tonight. But anyway, we have been, I think, misled, and we have also been misled by things like the Smithsonian and some of our science, definitely by people in historians and all that stuff. So it's almost as if the concerted effort, and I think you picked up on that a little bit with your remote viewing. It's almost a concerted effort to cover this up or to keep us from knowing what the real truth is.
Yes. And we have to wonder why, okay, and of course there are all these shows that you and I do together, Dennis, and the shows you do on your channel and my channel. We're kind of piecing together the missing pieces of the puzzle, so to speak, with a lot of these things when it comes to not only the cryptids but our hidden history and the things that we've been told are not part of our history or just left out. Listen, omission is a lie, right? Isn't that what they say? Like, omission can be a lie because
It is.
when we're not told something, those are like the missing links.
That's just the same as a lie. If you admit something, that's just the same as, so I call it the silent lie. You're just kind of being quiet about it and letting it go and letting people think the wrong thing. That's what's going on a lot with a lot of this stuff. And, even when you talk about giants, you got to relate back to the Nephilim. I won't get into that tonight. That's another whole thing. But you and I have talked about a good deal. But the Nephilim were a race of monsters, really. That's what they were. They were a race of monsters. And if in order to survive they were either driven underground by humanity, I think some of them still exist in that form, and that may be where you get a lot of the giant stories from. But that's another reason that they want to cover up a lot of this stuff, you see, because of the ancient history, and it's not the way they supposedly say that it went. They leave out the Nephilim and leave out all that kind of stuff because it doesn't fit their little notebook that they've got. They don't want to do that. But I think a lot of this relates to that, and I think that in order for these beings to survive, and that includes maybe some of these pale crawlers, maybe some of these underground civilizations you and I have talked about before, and all this other stuff, in order for them to survive, they were driven underground by humanity. That's maybe one reason why they don't like us and they hate us. Okay, definitely, we're not friends with them. Absolutely not. And if we drove them underground and they had to go underground to survive, they lost a large treasure in their lives, and that was living above ground, living in the sunlight, living the more normal life. I could understand why they would be our enemies for that. Absolutely. I mean, I wouldn't like it if you did me that way. If you drove me underground and I lost out on being above and in the true part of the nature, that I was. So I think that relates back to a lot of this. And I think you might be picking up on some of that. Definitely.
I think so too. And I wanted to read this comment from Renee, who says the Drawbridge Canyon was said to house not only those hoodoos, but a giant that likes to eat people or humans. According to legend, the monster's name is T. Sawabits.
That was the number one thing about giants and Nephilim, Jessica. They were cannibals. They ate people. They would eat us. We were on the food chain. Okay, we were several rungs down on the food chain, unfortunately, when it came to them. And every time you hear about giants in folklore and ancient stories and all that, they're eating people. Okay, that's just the way giants go. Okay, and what did I say earlier? They were a race of monsters. Really, that's what we thought they were. Because when you eat people and you hide underground and you do some bad stuff, that's a pretty good definition for a monster. you know.
Yes, and so I guess we can kind of talk about the Lovelock Cave giants. Those are the red hair giants that we hear about, and that's out in Nevada. Okay, so you guys know, people who watch the shows know about, Brian Singh. By the way, congratulations to Brian Singh. He just had a baby girl tonight. So he and his wife just had a baby.
Yeah.
Congratulations. Okay,
And
welcome
Daddy,
to the world, baby Singh. Okay,
yeah.
so that just happened tonight. But Brian lives at Winnemucca in Nevada, and that is where the Lovelock Caves are.
Mm-hmm.
I need to go out there and visit sometime because it's an interesting place, and that is when
I want to go with you. I want to go with you when you do. I've always
Yes.
wanted to go there myself.
Oh, me too. Renee says that the giants are still among us, and that's what we're going to get into tonight with the other giant sighting that I did do a remote view on. Okay, and we're going to talk about that. Where there's been a lot of giant sightings lately on the side of mountains. Now, this is a jawbone from one of the skeletons that were found at Lovelock Cave.
Actually, giants supposedly, Jessica, had two rows of teeth, double row of teeth. Of course, they had 6 fingers, 6 toes. They were, like I said, this was a different race of beings from what really humans are. They were humanoid looking, but they had a lot of and there is speculation they may have had extra organs that we don't have, maybe even 2 hearts in their bodies. Whatever the situation was, they were completely different from humankind, and that's why we call them monsters. Anytime something looks different than us or acts different than we do, we usually tag them with that label monster. Okay, that's just the way that goes. And that especially goes with the Giants. But I think, and I agree with that they are still among us genetically speaking. I think the genetics are still here, definitely. And I think some remnant of them remain because, like I said, I believe they were driven underground, and that's how they had to survive. And I believe there's some still probably down there. And what you see are things every now and then they put in an appearance above ground. But to me, that would be the obvious place I would hide.
It's a great place to hide. Apparently, I'm not a huge fan of caves. Okay, I've done a cave investigation, but yes, there's a whole other world down underground. Apparently, now giants were actually mentioned in the Bible, Dennis. Right, and you are a biblical scholar, and this is a verse from Genesis. I think that's 6:4. There were giants in the earth in those days, and also after that, when the sons of God came in unto the daughters of men, and they bare children to them, the same became, and I can't read the rest of this here. Let me take that down. The same became mighty men, which were of old men of renown.
And what that passage means, they told stories about them. They were so impressed by them, they became part of our what? Folklore. They knew about these beings. They lived among them. And if you will find many references, not just that, in the Bible to giants. There was even one, I think, one actual reference that I think they went into the so-called promised land, and they came back with a report. And one of the guys said, we were like grasshoppers compared to these guys. They were so big. They were frightened by it. And they even brought in, and everything in this land was supposed to be bigger, a little bit bigger than everything normal. And you have to wonder if maybe there was some type of a radiation influence or something on early mankind under these things. Because, like I say, when you go back further in time, everything was bigger. That's a very strange thing to think about. I mean, you had mosquitoes the size of hawks and eagles. Think about that a minute. You had big stuff back then, and I think that what you're seeing is a lot of that is what the giants were a product of in that respect. Things were gigantic. Wasn't Texas either. It was Texas was everywhere. Okay, everything was big, and you had big trees, you had big flowers, you had big insects, you had big animals, and we were talking about how the height of these things and gravity. I don't know if you've ever been around a giraffe. Okay, giraffe as long-necked as if you ever watch them, they move slow. Why? Because of the gravity. They're moving kind of slow. Of course, they can run. I've seen them run. They can run like horses. But when they move, and I'm not saying when they're in motion, but when just normal moving, you can tell they're having a hard time with gravity. Well, we all do. That's a normal thing, okay? When you get up and walk across the room to get your popcorn or whatever, you're not usually fluidly moving to do that, okay? You're kind of moving slow. That's the way these things do. But if you get the adrenaline rush, you're going to forget gravity for a while. You're going to move pretty fast. And I think that's what happens with Bigfoot. And I think some other things like that too, But anyway, the interesting thing about the giants are, and just like that passage says, they became men of old, men of renown. And what they're talking about, unusual things. It was a thing to be talked about and remembered. Look at Goliath in the Bible. He had two bigger brothers than he was. And Goliath supposedly stood almost 10 feet tall. And his shield and his spear, it talks about. His spear was like 100 pounds. Can you imagine picking up 100-pound spear? And his shield was even more than that. That was a big guy. He was a very big, a very formidable enemy. Okay, absolutely. But he had bigger brothers than he was. And there was a king mentioned that was a king, I think it's very much like Gilgamesh, we talk about a lot. He was like, they talk about his bed. The bed that he had to lie in was like 12 foot long. Just how big this guy was. So giants are not something made up, folks. They are the real deal. I mean, these things have existed, I believe, without a doubt, and may still be with us in certain instances. And when you talk about the red-haired giants of Lovelock, you have to think about the one mentioned in the Kandahar giant incident. He had red hair too. What is it with this red hair? What is it with giants and red hair? They're describing having that a lot. Well, here's the interesting thing about the red hair, okay? If once upon a time, Jessica, you had red hair, you were considered to be a titan. You know what a titan is? Touched by the gods. Okay? You were an extraordinary person. You were touched by the gods.
Wow. Yeah, these are what I'm showing right now are actually artifacts that were found in the Lovelock Cave. Some ducks and some basket weavings and things like that. But what I find really interesting are the jaw bones and the skulls that were found there. Look how big that is compared to a human jawbone. Just gigantic, just really huge. And so, we hear stories about how the Native Americans would I think they banished them to that cave, or they smoked them out of that cave, and I think they unalived them in that cave, right at Lovelock.
And their number one complaint against them was what? They were cannibals.
Yep. Yeah. Well, that would line up with the whole Nephilim narrative, right? Eating humans. So, and we also have the giant of Kandahar, which we could also talk about. You did mention that in that side of Kandahar, Afghanistan. I believe that happened as well. That was another remote viewing target that I did a while back. So there's giants, 100%. They're giants. I might know somebody who might own a giant skeleton. I don't know, maybe. So, and I think that it's important that people who do have artifacts like that hold on to those, because we do have an organization that's going around and has been hiding them from the general public for 100 years now or more.
Well, this also can tie into the Super Soldier Project as well, because as you and I both know, the government is very good at weaponization of whatever it may be. And I talked about this on my show the other night. They're even weaponizing things of the paranormal and the supernatural. They're always up to something like that. And definitely if they had a body of a giant, they would want to test its DNA. They'd want to find out everything about it. Because I think, without a doubt, the Super Soldier Project is still ongoing. And they are still looking at that, and doing things with it. I don't think it ever stopped. I don't think so for one moment that it ever stopped. They're still doing that, and they're deep into weaponization of all things. That doesn't surprise me if they didn't. They don't weaponize werewolves, vampires, wishes, whatever the situation is, whatever they can find to get. It definitely would not stop with giants. That would be a big plus for them, because that would tie in directly to the super soldier type thing. Absolutely.
Okay, so we just talked about super soldiers yesterday with our Kimra. We looked into what is that thing called? The oh gosh, the name of that goat man that we looked into yesterday. Okay, that actually was from the 1920s, from a scientist who actually worked for the OSS, which was the precursor to the CIA. And he was actually doing experimentation on creating super soldiers. And this creature that he created still, I don't know if it still roams the area. I think it does. There are stories about it still roaming the area in Southern California today. But it was a super soldier.
I don't know if you mentioned this on the program, but not that far away from that are the rebobs. I know you've heard of the rebobs of California. They're supposed to be a failed scientific experiment as well from the military. We're talking about monkeys with wings that live in the trees and attack people. They're sort of like flying orangutans. They're described that way. They're called the rebobs. I think they're in Napa Valley, supposedly, on one section of Napa Valley. That might tie into what you were talking about with that, because you've got another failed military experiment thing going on there. So that makes you wonder about that, definitely.
Okay, the Billy Whack monster is what that was called from yesterday.
Yeah.
And my goodness. Okay, so and that was in the 1920s. That was 100 years ago, Dennis. They were doing genetic experimentation, genetic engineering on human-animal hybrids back then. I mean, imagine what they have the capabilities of doing today.
I think it's been going on a long time, Jesse. Look at Jules Verne writing about, the island Dr. Moreau. That was genetic experimentation. Look how far back that goes. This has been something, I think, and like I say, I think it's been an ongoing thing. And I'm not going to get that deep into that tonight with a Nephilim thing, but I think this is all part of a plan. And I think some of us have bought into this plan. And I think that's what you see going on with this stuff. That's why you've got a lot of these weird hybrids. You've got a lot of these cryptids that people see. And all of this ties into the demonological part of it as well. You've got a lot of smoking guns here, okay, pointing to things and showing us the patterns, showing us what's truly going on here. And giants are definitely a big part of that, without a doubt. And like I say, I think they still exist. If not in the caves that we're talking about, they're definitely in our DNA.
They are. Now, Adolf, hey, what's up, Adolf? It is actually during World War One. Okay, before World War One, around I can't talk. World War One era, the 1920s. It was like the 1920s and 1930s. The Billy Whack monster was being seen. It was experienced, and there were encounters around the 1950s and the 60s as well with that. So it was, more like World War One, pre like German. Like I guess we can just go ahead and say the Nazi experiments and stuff like Project Paperclip after it came here. This is before all of that, Dennis. I mean, this has been going back, and this was in an underground facility underneath a dairy in Southern California.
Oh yeah, I think, like I say, it's an ongoing project with them. It's been going on for an incredibly long time, and there's so many benefits they can get out of it. But here's the interesting thing: I think somebody down the line gave us a lot of this technology to do these things with for a certain reason. I almost say they was giving us the keys to our own destruction, and we happily took them to use. I think we're being used by these things to do some definite bad stuff. And I think our governments are not just our government. I think the governments of the world are deep into this stuff. That's what disturbs me about all. We have made some bad choices, I'm afraid, and we've signed some dark contracts with some of these forces that you know
We
we
have.
should.
Okay. Well, speaking of which, Dennis, I know you have to go in a few minutes. I'm going to keep the show going after you have to go. But I wanted to touch on this Andrew Dawson giant because this is something that I did remote view, and there's so much controversy around this. And here's the thing: like I've seen the information, I've seen what has been presented to the public, what he posted on his social media. In my opinion, is much different than what the data suggests. And this is one of those targets where it's like, wow, my gut says one thing, the data says something else. Okay. And so, and I'm very upfront about that when I see it, because I'm sitting here analyzing this myself after I was assigned this a while back. I did this target back in July, actually, is when I did this one. And after researching it and really digging deep into it, there's a lot of discrepancies in this case. Okay. And so for the audience, I want to go over this briefly before you go to get your opinion on it. Okay. Because back in April of 2022, there was a guy named Dawson, or named Andrew Dawson. His name was on TikTok was Handicapped was his name on TikTok. And he used to just post just regular stuff. Okay. Just regular everyday stuff like all of us post on TikTok. But one day he was videoing like the landscape of out in Alberta, Canada, of a mountain. And he kind of zoomed in on a mountain, okay, on a mountaintop. And it looked like a giant human walking on the side of this mountain, or on top of this mountain, actually. And he kept saying, "Oh, it's a person, dude. It's a person." He was telling his friend in the car. And he said, "Pull over. There's a person standing there." And he got this video. Well, he posted this on TikTok, and all this chaos ensued from there on. Okay, now it is debatable as to whether this is authentic or if it was set up, if it was not real. If it was, some of the things that he posted after that have been debunked, but some of it hasn't. He claimed after he posted this giant on social media, he started getting followed by people in, like, I'm just going to say the CIA. I've already mentioned the CIA before. Even though he's in Canada, which they don't have the CIA there, right? But can't the CIA kind of cover the whole world, Dennis? I mean, you were in law enforcement, you would know. He claimed that he was being followed and stuff. And I've actually, when I looked at the video of him, the car that was supposed to be following him or staking out his house, it kind of seemed like that was set up, in my opinion. Okay, but I don't know.
I can kind of equate with him. I've been followed too. I have actually been followed by the government on several occasions. Once in a while, they still let me know they're there. I'm not going to get into tonight. That's time for another story. But anyway, I can kind of understand where the guy's coming from. It will make you kind of paranoid. It definitely will, because you don't know what's coming down the line next. But I followed this case when he first came out very closely. And he actually made a video later and he sort of, said this was all a hoax and all that. And you can tell the guy did this video. It's very much like he was under duress to do this. I believe he was forced to do it. That's the picture of the mountaintop that he took right there. That is very interesting. And they say that figure, according to perpendicular to the size of that mountain, that thing was standing at about 20 feet tall. About like this other one that we're talking about. This is a huge figure on top of that mountain when you look at it. But he supposedly, later on retracted what he was saying about it. But I think he did that under duress. And then to have him to mysteriously, well, at the beginning, he disappeared for a while. And supposedly they found him dead. You've read the obituary on that, supposedly. That is very strange. But this is very much, Jessica, like what the CIA does. This is the kind of thing that they do. And I can tell you right now, there have been dozens of UFO investigators, scientists and all that have mysteriously died under weird circumstances. This is the real deal. This kind of stuff is going on. they're doing this to cover up things, and they're doing this, I think, a lot of times to cover their own rear ends, if you want to put it that way. That's what the number one thing they're watching out for. Because people just like this guy, I believe they're getting way too close to the truth. And that's when things get really, really dangerous. I got to get on out of here, but
Okay.
that is where you got to be very careful.
It is. Okay, well, I'm going to continue the show on tonight. I'm going to go solo tonight after you head off. You have another show to go to. You are busier than I am these days, Dennis. I love that for you. So I want to thank you so much for being here tonight and hanging out with me. I love your input and your expertise on everything.
I always enjoy getting with you on these.
Yes.
Yeah.
For sure. Well, thank you for being here tonight, Dennis.
There we go. I lost you there.
You're dismissed. Okay, you're dismissed, Dennis.
Okay.
I'll see you next time. Have a wonderful weekend, Dennis. Okay. Okay. Bye.
Okay.
We'll get Dennis. All right. See you, Dennis. All right, y'all. Well, now y'all just got me for the rest of the evening. Okay, let me take this down. Y'all just got the Cryptid Huntress at this point. Okay, so let's get into the story. Okay, because it was the guy, Andrew, he is deceased now. Okay, he is deceased. People, okay, and if you look this up online, it's a lot of like conspiracy theory, right? They're like, oh, it's a conspiracy theory that this ever happened. He claimed that he saw a giant. It's all so muddled. Okay, there's such a gray area here with all of this. What I believe, after going through all of this, like before I knew that I had to even remote view this, okay, because I get these blind targets. I had figured that it was potentially could have been a hoax, actually, after I did some research on it. My data says otherwise, y'all. Okay, the data says otherwise. I'm sad that Dennis isn't going to be here to discuss this with me tonight, because it's a really interesting data tonight. But after he posted that video, he started saying that he was getting stalked by people showing up at his home in their cars. He would try to go back to the area, the location where he had taken that video. He was told to leave. I'm not so, the person who told him to leave did not sound like law enforcement at all to me. Okay. So that's why it's a little weird. It's a little weird, right? But he started kind of going back and forth. He quit posting for a while, and then he started posting again. He said that he wanted to let all of his followers know that he was alive and well. And he actually did some videos where he looked like he was under duress, and it was from a different phone than the phone that he had been using to do videos. People have really dug deep into this and looked into the minute details of all of the videos that he made. Let's just say that it was just anomalous. Okay, it was anomalous because when he would go back, he found things like, he claimed that this was a new structure on top of the same mountain where he had actually seen that giant. Okay, well, I think it turns out this is actually another mountain. Okay, so people have been able to debunk a lot of what he was talking about, because it was actually different mountain ranges or mountaintops than to what he thought that it was what it was originally. Okay, so I was given some coordinates. It turned out to be this. Actually, he also claimed that there was a UFO floating over the same mountain top as well. I believe that was debunked. But it's still weird, right? It's still a weird case. It's worth remote viewing. It was totally worth remote viewing. These are some of the videos that he did. It says, I'm scared, official update, it moved, stopped by the CIA. That's just a little tiny tidbit of some of the videos that he made. All right. Let's just say in the very end, he went dark. He went dark. If y'all know what that means, he went dark. Didn't post anything else. And then his obituary showed up online. All right. There were some anomalies to his obituary as well. Okay. Leading people to believe that this could all be just like a big made up story. However, my buddy, Tony Merkel, all right, if you guys are familiar with Tony and the Confessionals podcast, he actually had some correspondence with this fella. And I do believe that by looking at the blog that Tony made, I do believe that the story checks out as far as him actually passing away. Okay. And let me see. Oh, you guys, I wanted to thank, first of all, before we get into the data, thank you, Aaron Kane, for that wonderful super sticker. Amendment to what I said about giants in Georgia, I found an article from 1892 about an Indian mound near Brunswick. They found 5 skeletons, 4 normal, 1 giant, and another tally in the books. Thank you so much. Also, Lavera Lakini, Jessica seems every time I try to be in chat, but I don't know. It's creepy as it sounds. I'm in the shadows. Okay, thank you for being here. And yes, thank you. You rock too, lady. Okay, thank you so much. All right, let's get into this data, y'all. Okay, because I did remote view this. This was one of my targets. And I thought it would be interesting to actually bring this target into the mix, as we just talked about super soldiers yesterday with Arkim Ra, with the Billy Whackmosser of Southern California. Like I said, if I were to go into this without remote viewing it, I think there are so many anomalous aspects to this story. I question it. Okay, I question it. But then we have the data, which is pretty solid here. Okay, and I don't know if anyone has ever remote viewed this case. The Cryptid Huntress has. And here we go. Let's get into this, okay? Because this is a blind target. I was given a set of 8 numbers. And through these 8 numbers, I did pick up on some very interesting data. All right. Like I said, just from seeing what's been presented to us in the public, I personally would think that this probably could be even a hoax in some way with some aspects of it. But the data says otherwise. All right, y'all, you ready for this? All right. This is why I didn't put it in the title of the show, because it's pretty serious here. Okay, so in this target, I wrote down, I wrote chilly, moving, brisk, freezing, stacked, long time, scarred, big, gigantic, and muscular. That was my sensory data. Okay, for some of my analytic overlay data, for this target of this is the target right here. Okay, this is what this gentleman, Andrew Dawson, filmed that day when he was in his car with his friend. This was a target. The first thing I wrote was cold environment. Okay, so I was in a cold environment. I wrote daddy long legs. All right, so but I underlined, which is very unusual. I underlined long legs. I also wrote fit and exercise, and in parentheses I wrote PT, which for you guys, anybody who's been in the military, you know, PT is like physical training. It's where you exercise every morning or whenever. And then I wrote down a lot of military data. Okay, so I wrote military training, battle ready. I wrote monster, load bearing, weight bearing, super soldiers, real life. And then I heard turn of events, long time coming. I also wrote down information like biorhythm, portals, and cycles. Okay, so that was the first of my data. Now, what I was seeing when I was remote viewing this, I had tapped into a super soldier program with this target. I actually even wrote down Elysium, the movie. Now, for those of you who have watched my shows for a while and have been a part of my channel, when I remote viewed The Giant of Kandahar about a year or 2 ago, it's been a while, Elysium was in the data. Okay, the same exact phrase was in that data. Now, Elysium, and this is a blind target, okay, and I wrote down Elysium with the super soldier program. And I wrote down Elysium movie, and I was seeing something that was pale and white. And I wrote down pale white, man, human, humanoid. And then I wrote down alien with a question mark beside it. I actually wrote down the word Anunnaki as well. I also did a deep mind probe of what I was seeing there, because I did 100% I made a connection with a being, something that was alive. And so I said, who are you in this target? And I got a whole bunch of stuff that didn't make sense. And I'll tell you guys what I wrote down. I wrote down cult, cutlass. Yeah, maybe y'all can help me make sense of this, because I don't know how to make sense of it. Centerpiece, and arrows is what I heard. That's what I heard. And then I wrote down the last 3 words that I wrote down on this target were lost gods, reset, and complete. And that's all I wrote down. I ended the session at that point because it was feeling kind of ominous, because I heard lost gods and the Anunnaki. Now, I am not an expert on the Anunnaki. I don't know a whole lot about the Anunnaki. I don't know a whole lot about the movie Elysium. However, this is what I had in the data. Now, we've been kind of programmed, and I'm not going to say programmed, because I felt like I was kind of programmed once I got this data and I realized what this target was, and I compared it to what I had assumed had gone on with that case. I felt like maybe I had been programmed. Maybe we're all being programmed to, yeah, aliens do play God. Maybe sometimes we are programmed to, gosh, I hope I don't get that proverbial knock at my door tonight. But potentially, what if we are being programmed to, I mean, there is something called like the Mockingbird media and all that stuff. You know, there is a reason, there's an ultimate goal to keep us away from the truth. Okay. And by any means necessary. And I mean, what I thought was what was going on is not lining up with the data. Okay. And so I just think this is a great moment in time right now for my audience, for myself included, to look at things in a different perspective and look at the possibility. Now, ultimately, this is only remote viewing data. It's just data. That doesn't mean that this is real. This is for entertainment purposes only. Okay, but this is pretty profound in my opinion. Okay, very, very profound. Renee says cycling is a term for rotation within the labs. Confined areas create tension, and they cycle hybrids from their handlers. This is due to them having much stronger minds than humans. Okay. All right. Well, just y'all just pay attention to my chat. Okay, everybody pay attention to my chat. It's important. Because there are a lot of people who, and I'm not calling out anybody, I'm saying there's a lot of people who are not able to come on air and talk. And sometimes some of my good friends are able to talk and chat and put very important information in here. So I will, for the best of my ability, put some of those very, very important comments up on the screen when we're doing our little chats here. Okay, because it does add a lot to the discussion. And so just pay attention and know that we're in a very interesting time in humanity right now. And whatever it takes to figure out what's really going on in the world, let's do that. Okay, let's do it. If it means remote viewing, which is like weird to a lot of people, let's just look into it. It doesn't mean that I'm right. It doesn't mean that my data is on point all the time. Let's just look at a different perspective on things. Okay, and if remote viewing can help, so be it. All right, because this is not exactly what I was expecting. Okay, as far as like, I think this is real. Okay, so I think whatever happened to him, potentially maybe he did run up on something that was he wasn't supposed to see and wasn't supposed to expose to the world. Okay, and it's for entertainment purposes only. All right. I do find it interesting that they, when I did the deep mind probe and I wrote down all that jibber jabber that I didn't understand what it meant in my analytic overlay, the way that I interpreted it, all the jibber jabber, I wrote down lost gods, reset, and complete. Okay. So, y'all know that we're going through some weird stuff. some weird times. There is a potential reset going on right now. And I say, don't live in fear. Let's use everything that we have to our best abilities to get to the highest timeline. Okay, think positive about all this, and let's rise together. Like, don't. My question is, and I wish Dennis was here right now because I'm talking to myself. Okay, if Dennis was here, we'd have a conversation about it. But it's like, well, could this be used to our benefit, not to our detriment? That's the real question. Okay, how can we use all this to our benefit, not our detriment? Because if there is something that is being hidden from us, so be it. Okay, it's being hidden. We know that. We know there's stuff being hidden from us. But how can we use all this to our advantage? Now that we know, not to say this is fact, this is remote viewing data. It's for entertainment purposes only, may I add it one more time. But how can we utilize what I'm telling you guys tonight through this data that I channeled? Okay. You know, I'm just asking you guys to use this to your benefit at this moment. Okay. Because I don't even know what it means. I really don't. I don't know what any of this means. I just know that the information's here and I have an audience. And so I want you guys to, I want us all to win. Okay. And so, yeah, if we have to go get our slingshots to go hit Goliath in his forehead, let's do it. Does that sound weird? It sounds weird. Okay. Yes, Renee says, yes, we glean insight to make preparations for the near future. Now that sounds ominous, Renee. Okay, the near future. The near future. Actually, this is all happening right now, right? And that giant, that potential giant that I did do this remote viewing target on, this one right here, that this gentleman right here potentially lost his life over putting this in the public. You know, that was 2 years ago. That was only 2 years ago. Right. And how many reports do we have of giants resurfacing? And I say resurfacing. I don't know why I said that. Surfacing. I had pictures. I saw videos today of giants doing push-ups on the side of mountains. Gigantic, huge giants. Lots of giants being sighted right now. And let's go back to this one that we talked about earlier. Okay, this right here. Why would the news media? Oh my God, I hope I don't get visited. I swear to God. I swear. Why would the news media, why would Inside Edition pick that up? Why would ABC News or any of these news organizations pick that up and put it out there when this is potentially, when I remote viewed this is just the side of a mountain, in my opinion. This is my data. It's not even my opinion, it's my data. But then we have things like this we don't see on Inside Edition. Okay. And I'm not dissing any kind of news organization or whatever. Why is that not on there? Just a question. It's a question. I'm here to throw a glitch into the matrix. Okay, a wrench in the engine of the matrix. That's what I'm doing. And I like throwing a wrench in the engine occasionally. That's what I do best. I need to get a T-shirt that says that. Throwing wrenches in the engine of the matrix. That's what the Cryptid Huntress does. And so yeah, I don't know. This is disclosure. If we don't look at things differently, okay, and kind of expose this kind of stuff, who's going to do it? Who's going to do it? I am no giant slayer. Okay, I don't know, but I can be. I can be for sure. And so I'm super excited that you guys are here with me tonight, talking about all of this. And I see all these comments. And yes, remote viewing is just one piece of the puzzle, but at least it's a piece of the puzzle. Thank you, Aaron. That is so sweet. Thank you for that super sticker earlier. I appreciate you so much. And I know, listen, I think that's why I got attacked so much when I first came out as a remote viewer, because it's odd and a lot of people don't understand it. But if we can just find hidden information in any means possible, why not do that? Okay, like, why not do it? I shock myself all the time when I find out what these targets are. I'm like, oh my God, I was like on target. And with this one, it's no different. I want to show the audience. You guys want to see the drawing that I made for this? So this was the drawing for this target. It was like, I'm no artist. Okay, y'all, I am no artist. This is what I drew. That's a person. It's a humanoid, right? And that's what I wrote. So that was the target. That is this right here was my target. And this is the actual picture that I drew right here. Okay, so that looks like I think. Okay, so I wrote Elysium. Now I'm not sure if that's the same movie where they have like that pale skin white guy with the bald head in the beginning of that movie. That they're like seeding the planet or something. That's kind of what I was seeing for that target. So I don't know. I hope I don't get in trouble for this one. I really do. Okay. Well, let's go through. Let's move on. Okay, let's move on a little bit because I wanted to talk to you guys about some more stuff tonight as well. Because we've established that there are potentially giants still today out in the public, not in public, but out in the open that people are seeing, and these reports are being shut down. They're being the narrative is being changed slightly, whatever. I mean, it put doubt in my mind as to whether that man's story was true. But then I remote viewed this, and now I'm like, well, I think this is real. There's definitely some kind of cover up going on, and God, I probably shouldn't say this. Okay, I was looking at some of the YouTube channels tonight before we went live. Some that I really love to watch. Okay, and they were kind of debunking this case with Andrew Dawson. They were kind of debunking it a little bit. And now I look at them and I'm like, okay, well, they have a lot of followers. Maybe they're in on it too. I need to shut my mouth, okay? I need to shut my mouth because I'm just being real. I'm just being real, y'all. All right. Let's talk about other giants in America, shall we? Let's move on, y'all. All right. Because there is a place out in California. It's called Catalina Island. And I do want to do a show solely focused on Catalina Island. Okay. Thank you, Sovereign. I appreciate that. Catalina Island. Now, I don't know if you guys are familiar with this, but check this out. I mean, we're talking about hundreds of giant skeletons were found at Catalina Island. And yes, we will be doing a show on this all on its own. So this right here is, let me pull this picture up. This man is Ralph Gilden, photographed with hundreds of giant skulls unearthed on Catalina Island off the California coast. Photos of an 8 and 9 foot giant, or 8 to 9 foot giant skeletons were uncovered on the Catalina Island in California. Some say they're Nephilim giants. And I mean, we're talking about hundreds of them. Okay, this is in 1929. A report published in the San Diego Union gives some details on Professor Ralph Glidden, curator of the Catalina Museum. He claims overwhelming proof that fair-skinned, fair-haired, highly intelligent races, a race, here's another picture, a race of humans lived off the coast of, lived on Catalina Island on the southwestern coast of California 3,000 years ago. Okay, this is 3,000 years ago. His excavation of a huge cache of skeletons, domestic utensils, urns, wampum, and etc. is quite out of the ordinary class of Indian discoveries, is what they said. A skeleton of a young girl, evidently of high rank, within a large funeral urn, was surrounded by those of 64 children. And in various parts of the island, more than 3,000 other skeletons were found, practically all the males averaging around 7'8" in height, one being 7 feet 8 inches from the top of his head to the ankle, and another being 9 foot 2 inches tall. All right, this is in California. This is in California. We're gonna cover this in depth in another show, all on its own. This is so important. Okay, it's so important. This is not in the United States, but we also have all these giant skeletons that were unearthed in Greece. This is Ohio. You guys, let me look up the Ohio information here. In case you were wondering. Okay, on January the 21st of 1899, the Miamisburg Daily Telegraph came out with a big headline that said, "Giant body recovered." It reported the world's largest human skeleton was found in the Indian mounds near Miamisburg. Archaeologists' excavations have been going on in these mounds for a long time, and many of the most common artifacts were found here, but the skeleton was, okay, so they go in centimeters. Okay, so 250 centimeters. Let's see, how many? There's 30.48 centimeters in a foot. Okay, so this is 250 centimeters tall. It stood out against their background, but they were puzzled not even by the growth of the skeleton, but by the fact the way the bones were fossilized. They've been lying there since at least prehistoric times. It seemed impossible in that area because, according to them, there were no humans in America at that time. Okay. They were baffled because there were not supposed to be any humans in this area at that time. All right. So if that doesn't tell you something, I don't know what does, y'all. All right. I just don't. Let's see. Let's go to the San Diego Giant. You guys might be familiar with this picture. On October 7th of 1895, the World newspaper reported on the discovery of a giant Indian mummy, 274 centimeters tall, which y'all remember, a foot is 30.48 centimeters. Near San Diego, California, the mummy was most likely a female because it was clutching the remains of a child to its breast. All right, these things. This is one of the more popular pictures of a giant from the 1800s, early 1900s. I mean, at this time, I do believe the Smithsonian was probably going around and scooping up all the skeletons. That's my opinion, for entertainment purposes only. Okay. But at that time, that's when they were going around scooping up all these skeletons. I mean, what happened to all the skeletons from Catalina Island? Isn't that a good question? Thousands of them. Thousands. All right. We also have something called the Book of Giants. Now, I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with this, but discovered more than half a decade ago, the so-called Book of Giants is considered one of the most fascinating and controversial discoveries ever made on Earth. Now, that is a big statement. Found together with thousands of ancient scrolls, the Book of Giants describes the demise of the ancient Nephilim. The ancient manuscript speaks about the creatures that inhabited our planet in the distant past and how they were destroyed. All right, so there's a Book of Giants, of course. Of course there is. It's not in our history books, but it's there. So we're just establishing that there are giants, okay? And also we have, there's pictures in literature and art of giants trading with us regular-sized little humans, you know. And also, if you guys want a reference point, these are 7-foot tall skeletons. So I'm assuming that guy right there is about average height. What is he, like 5'8", 5'9"? I don't know. He's about my height. And those are around 7-foot skeletons, just to give you something to look at, like a comparison right there, to see what size skeletons are 7-footers right there. Okay, and I guess I didn't upload any more pictures. I had a bunch more. I forgot to upload them today, but let's see. I have a couple more things to talk about, because in Iowa as well, there were there were skeletons found in mounds, like some of the what we call like Native American Indian mounds, burial mounds. In 1897, a newspaper reported unusual finds in the Indian mounds in Iowa. Archaeologists allegedly dug up a skeleton. God, I hate these centimeters. I do feet and inches, y'all. 229 centimeters in height there. In another burial mound on the same site, they had a large chamber containing 11 giant skeletons. That's in Iowa. They were arranged in an unusual way in a circle, in the center of which was a large shell. All these skeletons were so unusually tall. They were over 2 meters. Okay. And when archaeologists began to work there, they came across an unusual substance similar to copper powder. Okay. And copper was actually very commonly found in some of the mounds. I know in the Etowah Indian mounds, they had copper plates, like breastplates and jewelry and stuff like that too. So copper is good for you. If y'all didn't know that already. Wear copper jewelry if you got some. Okay, wear it. It's good for arthritis. It's good for a lot of things. So do that. And then last but not least, I do want to talk about the Ozark Giant tonight as well. Let me see if I can find a picture of it. I had a picture of this Ozark Giant. Giant in Ohio. I guess I didn't pull it up. Anyways, there's an Ozark Giant. And y'all know that we did talk about the Ozark Howler not too long ago. We had Robbie on here, and we got into that and the Concatenated Order of the Hoo-Hoo as well. The Secret Society of National Parks Lumberjacks. Okay, I know that's weird. Look that up or watch that show if you get a chance, if you missed it. In 1933, the Missouri State newspaper reported a find in the small resort town of the Ozarks. A local boy named Billy Hartman crawled into Puckett Cave in search of ancient Indian arrowheads and spears that he knew were in there. He found more than he wanted. He found a depression in the cave where human bones were lying. The boy reported them to the adults when they collected them. The bones, here's some more centimeters, 244 centimeters long. What is that? What did I say that is? Oh, 30 centimeters equals a foot. All right. They're at least 7 feet tall, 8 feet tall, something like that. They were tall. All right. So that's in the Ozarks. This is just showing a pattern of all over the United States, from California to the Midwest to even in Pennsylvania, where Dennis and I talked about the horned giants. That's something that I think I remote viewed that not too long ago, or we at least talked about it. They're everywhere. They were all over the place. So reports of these giants that are being seen all over the country, all over North America. It's not that outlandish. I do believe this. I think this was legit. This is a real giant. According to my data, I do think that there is some sort of a military connection here. Also, I don't know if y'all caught this when I was talking with Dennis, but this one right here that I remote viewed that we talked about, I don't think that is an actual being, but the remote viewing data, like a lot of times when I'm doing remote viewing, I do stumble across underground bases and stuff. And I don't, like I said, I don't know if you caught it, but I wrote down in quotation marks, which means that I heard it clairaudiently, activity inside. Okay, so whatever, that may not be an actual being, but I think that there's something going on inside that location. So I hope you guys all learned something tonight, and I think this is a very important show. Okay, it's a very important show, and so let's all make our own decisions as to whether you want to believe it. Like I said, it's all for entertainment purposes only. I'm only reading off my data and I'm giving my opinion on this. But I do know this is my opinion, that things are not as they seem. And so let's question the narrative. Let's question what we're told. Let's look at it from another perspective. And if something gets out there and the information is put before us, don't discount it. Don't discount it. It's like when we remote view. Okay, when I was taught remote viewing, we're taught to, and even like investigating cryptid reports and stuff. Okay, well, it may not make sense at the time, but don't forget it. Write it down, tuck it away, and save it for later. Okay, because you may not even think that I'm going to, that it's going to make any sense or that it's going to matter, but it may be the missing piece to the puzzle in the end. Okay, so I'm just asking you guys to do that tonight. Don't discount anything. Okay, when you see these reports, you see people go on TikTok, my favorite news source, which is a joke. I'm kidding. When you see things like that, don't just discount it. Write it down, remember it, put it in the back of your brain, put it in the back of your mind, and save it for later. Okay, save it for later because it might resurface and it might all make sense one day. And that's kind of what we have to do right now as far as humanity and the human experience goes. And ultimately, we are just all human, right? We're just human. We're trying to figure things out. And yeah, a little twisted. The more you know. The more you know. I'm sorry. I have not been pulling up comments. I've been talking so much. And I just appreciate every single person who is here tonight. This has been a wonderful, fantastic show. And yes, it is for entertainment purposes only. Thank you to all my moderators tonight for putting that out there. I hope you guys have enjoyed this. And just know we have giants. Now, another question for me is like, why are there giants on the side of mountains right now? Why are they here? According to my data, it's because they're actually training with the military. But for what? Okay, for what? I'm just going to analyze a little bit more. Okay, it says military training to get battle ready. Okay, battle ready. Exercising for PT for a turn of events, and it's been a long time coming. Okay, so just take that into consideration, y'all. Don't live in fear. If they can get battle ready, so can we. All right, so can we. You know, if that just means putting on the full armor of God every day, that's what it means. All right, just be aware. Don't be scared. Be aware. Live in awareness. Don't live in fear. And know that Russians. Yeah, just know that we are very powerful. You are a very powerful human. We're very powerful, and start practicing things like I do, like mind control, remote viewing, psychic skills, telepathy, and things like that. Get a little PT in yourself every day, some physical fitness, and start eating healthy if you're not already. I know I shared a McDonald's meal with my son today. I know it was gross. All right, just don't do that every day. Okay, but just we're in some interesting times. I personally am on a very high timeline for myself right now, and I see nothing but good things ahead. And I want you guys to, and that's the whole purpose of my shows that I do, is to inspire you to do what I'm doing. I've been through hell and back many times, and I'm not going through hell again. I'm just not. And if I do, I'm prepared. Okay, and so yeah. So I love you guys, and I'm so excited you guys have all been here tonight. Please join me this weekend on Saturday night. We're going to be going on the hunt with Wayne Tothrow of Paranormal Odyssey Podcast and Manimal Research. We're going to have a great show Saturday night. I was just with him last weekend over in East Tennessee. I did a boots on the ground field investigation and did the squash out over there with Lori Wade and a bunch of people. Terry Brown was there, a bunch of people. I see Dennis just pop back in too. Let me pull Dennis up real quick, y'all. Maybe this is not the end. Maybe this is just the beginning. Okay.
Hello.
Hey, Dennis.
That show I was going to do had some technical difficulties, so it didn't work out. So I thought I'd come back and see what I missed here.
Well, you're just in time. I was actually just about to shut the show down, but if you're back, I was just telling the audience, you know, we were going through some really interesting information from that data. From that last target. And I was just telling the audience to just, you know, don't live in fear. Let's all get prepared. If they can train and have things they're getting battle ready, according to my data, so can we, right, Dennis? And that's on a spiritual, energetic level. We need to be battle ready for whatever's coming, right?
Absolutely. You know, I have never seen such an increase in negative levels that we have in the world today, and we've got to really try to prepare ourselves, not only physically, mentally, but physically and spiritually as well, against this negativity that's in the world. And you know, I think the giants are just a syndrome of it. You know, they're just a little part of what's going on. And like as I alluded to earlier, I think there's a definite plan behind all of this. It's just too well highly organized that you can't see that. You know, it's very obvious, and I think we need to be aware of that, and we need to raise our awareness against this stuff. That will safeguard us hopefully in the future and keep a lot of this stuff away from us. And that raise our vibrational energy or spiritual energy against this negativity. There's so much of it in the world, and it's hitting us, Jessica, from every point of view that we have. It's the media, it's everything. It's constantly day in and day out, 24/7, that I think this insidious influence is working against us in many ways. We've got to be very careful. It's just like, I don't know if you've ever done this as a kid, but when you walk in a lake and you can't see where you're putting your feet, you can step on anything. And that's what the kind of world we're in right now. We have to really watch where our steps are taking us. And we
You
got to
know,
keep a watch on our six too, definitely, while we're doing it.
you know what I've learned to do? Because like I just walk. I mean, people probably think I'm totally crazy because I've gotten to where like I just trust that the universe is gonna catch me when I jump. Okay, when I fall, I don't know where I'm going. I'm just going right with my life right now, and so there's a beauty in just embracing the unknown and not knowing exactly where we're going. We don't have to have all the answers. Just know that you're going to be okay no matter what happens, and that's how I live every day. That's how I live with awareness, not fear. And so we have to live like that. I mean, I don't say you have to, but that's how I live right now. And I was telling the audience, I've been through hell and back. I've lived hell many times on this lifetime. I've also lived a beautiful life too so far, and so I'm ready for anything. I think we all should be, and I don't even see anything super negative happening in the future, but according to my data, there's some preparation for something in the future that involves the giants.
I
And
think we've all, paid our dues. As the old saying is, I think the check is in the mail for a lot of us, definitely. But I think we've paid our dues in a lot of aspects, but it's made us better. I think it's made us better people for what we've experienced. I hope we come away with that anyway. That's what we can get the take on it. And bad things are going to happen. Bad things are going to always happen. That's just what this. It rains on the just and the unjust alike. I've had a lot of people ask me that over the years. Why did this happen to me, or why it happened to me? It happens to everybody. Sooner or later, you're going to have some bad stuff, but should make you stronger. You should learn from it and come away with a strength away that you need from that kind of a situation. But we're going to all face that. There's a lot of things we face in our lives, and a lot of us, like you said, we don't know where we're going. But we know where we've been. When we don't want to go back. We want to keep going forward. That's the main thing.
correct. I agree. Maureen, thank you so much. She says, awesome show tonight. Thank you for that super sticker. That's so sweet. I appreciate that very much. And Ange, what's up, Ange? Let's see. Oh, thank you so much for that super sticker. So you're on the other side of the world. I think you're in Australia, if I'm not mistaken. So thank you for being here. It's got to be morning over there right now. So grand rising to you, and thank you for being here, Dennis. I'm so tickled that you came back. I wasn't expecting that, so I'm glad that you were able to get back over here and give us some like final thoughts on this tonight, because this is important information. I know, like, I wasn't expecting it to be so profound tonight, but there was that remote viewing data for that target of the Alberta, Canada giant on the mountain turned out to be something completely different than what I was expecting. I thought it was, that I think that there's something more going on, and it just kind of connects to the super soldier program that I talked about yesterday that was going on in the 1920s. And we're in the 2020s right now. That's 100 years worth of research in the super soldier program and genetic engineering.
I think without doubt they weaponize everything, Jessica, and that's what a lot of this is going back to, weaponization. Matter of fact, I talked to somebody today where they're talking about how they will attack your reputation a lot of times, and you can expect that. I can expect that. People that get in the public view expect that, because that's going to happen. They weaponize that. I call it the weaponization of reputation. That's what they're doing. They're trying to discredit you. Because they don't either agree with you or they're trying to cover something up. And I think a lot of this is connected with that as well. And we've got to expect that's part of the territory that you're going to get into, especially when you start uncovering stuff. But here's, like I'll say this: as long as we get a grasp on the truth, or we're still looking for the truth, actively looking for it, maybe we'll find it. That's the main thing.
By any means necessary, and that's what I was telling the audience while you were gone tonight. I was saying, think it's important that we do look at things from another perspective, and even utilizing things like remote viewing to find some answers to this. Because if we don't, and maybe that's why I was attacked so hardcore when I first came out as a remote viewer, because there's an active reason, a measure to like suppress some of the truth, even with people in the truther community. And I'm not going to say truther, but like even in the cryptid community, I got attacked harder by people in the Bigfoot community for being a remote viewer than any other community. Okay. And the dogman community too. It's almost like, I was called a witch and stuff for doing this kind of stuff. But is that like a subconscious way to like suppress what I can do?
I've been called worse.
I know, right? Me too.
But
Me too.
here's the thing about it, Jessica, and we don't need to segment ourselves. You got a lot of people like in the cryptid community looking down on the other paranormal people, and vice versa. You got a lot of this segmentation going on. We need to be more united in what we're doing. In that respect, we don't need to let the enemy ununite us. Okay, we don't need that to go on. But you're gonna have attacks on your reputation. I'm gonna tell you what, people that like you that are given a gift, you're given that gift for a reason. Okay. And not to use it would be going against that gift. You understand what I'm saying? It is going against why you've been given that. And people are given different gifts for different reasons. And like I've always said before, even certain people are supposed to meet other people. There's a plan behind all this, okay? There's something going on with that. And that's just like you're given the gifts that you have for a reason. They were given to you for that, like gifts of discernment and all that, so that you may find the knowledge of the truth. As it says in the Bible, I think it was Jesus that said in the Bible, you got to have the what? Keys of knowledge. The keys of knowledge are all very important, and that's what we're looking for, and that's what we're trying to find.
Yes. I admit I don't know nothing about nothing. Okay, that's what I like to say. I don't know. I do know some stuff. Okay, I do, but I don't claim to be an expert on anything. But I do feel like I was given some gifts, and I am doing my part to share my gifts with the world. And I've had to come to terms with the fact that not everybody accepts it and stuff. But for everybody that's in my chat tonight, everybody's cool with it. Okay, and that's why y'all are here tonight, and we're all resonating on that same frequency. So I thank everybody for being here and being a part of this tonight. And Laura, thank you for that super sticker. That's very sweet of you. I appreciate that very much. The outpouring of support from the audience and everybody has just been fantastic, and it means a lot. And it does keep Dennis and I like going, knowing you guys support us and are here to participate in the chats with us and stuff. It means a lot to us. It does.
Yes, that's what I say a lot of times. It's wonderful that we have people to support us, and it's not just monetarily wise, but just being here for your support. But we have to have that to keep our mission to find the truth and to find out things, to help people and do the things that we need to do. Well, that support is all tantamount to what we're doing. Absolutely.
Yes. Yeah. Laura says, remember that what it is said that Quixote, if the dogs bark, it means that you're going ahead. Yeah, you're going ahead. Yes, I have a lot of dogs barking at me. A lot. It's fun. I don't know. I don't mind a dog barking. It's okay with me. But yes, that's very true. So thank you. Yeah.
Davy Crockett, had a saying that I always liked. He said, first find out if you're right, then go ahead. And that makes a lot of sense when you think yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Trey has a good point. Okay, so I didn't really get into like the inner earth topic tonight with these giants, Dennis, but there is an inner earth connection to some of these giants. And like the giant of Kandahar came out of a cave, and especially these giants are living in caves and they're being seen on the side of mountains. That means that they're living in caves, right?
I think folklore has taught us one very important thing. I think that some of these things, like the Fae, the giants, some other things, has been forced underground by mankind. I think there's a reason for that, and there's still a lot of the remnants of them are still there. I think that's exactly what you were picking up on tonight, without a doubt. You were really spot on with that, and because when you think of giants, you're definitely going to have mountains and caves and hidden places. They're out of the way. Oh, here's the one thing about the paranormal, and I use that as a umbrella term, okay, because it covers a lot of different things. But one thing about the paranormal beings that are out there, they're out of the way. They're hiding for a reason, just like we would do if somebody were out to get us or against us. And like I said earlier in the broadcast, we tag these things as monsters sometimes. Just like you said, you've been called a lot of stuff because people don't understand you. They tag you with labels if you're different, and not like them. They do that. Humankind is very bad about doing stuff like that. Look at all the people that supposedly burned as witches that were not. Okay. It's been going on for a long time. You're going to get labeled, but that's okay. You know the truth. You know what you're doing. You can't go by the labels, but yeah, they call them monsters. And if I were that way, I would definitely hide. And the paranormal does that 99.9% of the time. It goes out of the way and hides. That's just its nature, and we have to understand that.
Yes. Well, I've been in caves. I'm not a huge fan. Everybody knows that. I say it all the time. Not a big fan. But if I had to, and if we needed to go underground to survive, I would do it. Okay, I would do it. It is nice and cool down there, in all those underground systems and caves and stuff. But there's a whole other world down there. Why wouldn't there be giants? I have actually remote viewed several cases of blind targets where I was encountering giants. Okay, including under Area 51. On level 27, it took you on a bullet train to go under Mount Shasta, and I encountered giants down there when I was remote viewing. So giants are alive and well. They're here. They're just underneath our feet, I think, and occasionally showing up on the side of mountains. But when they show up on the side of a mountain, it gets covered up. And unfortunately, for what was his name, Andrew?
I remember very well what somebody in the government told me once years ago. When it comes to the government, there's a whole lot that you don't see for a reason. And I think a lot of it is underneath our feet. Absolutely.
Yes. Well, yeah, Mount Shasta is a place. I would like to go to Mount Shasta. That is where they had the robot grandma, too. And definitely keep your head on a swivel, y'all. If you go to Mount Shasta and that entire surrounding area, keep your head on a swivel. Be aware there's a lot of weird stuff going on over there. Okay. One of those targets I did, actually on this one, the one up at in Canada, I did write down portal on there too. So potentially there's, maybe these giants, maybe they're keeping them there under some kind of military. And this is just all me thinking and analyzing the data. Maybe there's some sort of like facility there underneath the mountain or within the mountain where they're training. Okay, they're training giants. Maybe they're doing some sort of super soldier programs there, and they have access to portals and things. Maybe, but it's all just a thought. So
that's where that's where you supposedly encounter a lot of portals. Our mountains, mountaintops, especially mountain passes. So that's not surprising,
Jackie says the Earth's root chakra is Mount Shasta. That's interesting because I've been told the belly button of the world is over where the Georgia Guidestones were in Georgia.
Something interesting. I was going to ask you what I'm thinking about. Have you ever heard of the Watchers?
Yes.
Okay.
It comes up in my data a lot.
The Watchers, they're like giants, shadow people kind of a thing. That's very strange. But you have that legend in those mountains as well.
Yeah. Well, there's giants in them hills as well. So, very, very interesting. It's all good stuff for us to marinate on a little bit. And I was telling the audience, Dennis, I want to give an entire show to the Catalina Island Giants. And I was talking about them when you were gone tonight. That deserves an entire show. There were thousands, at least 3,000 giant skeletons found on that island off the coast of California.
Oh, yeah. That is a fascinating case.
It is. It is. Well, we'll come back and cover that one day, and I look forward to that. But in the meanwhile, Dennis, do you have any final thoughts tonight on our topics with the giants on camera?
Well, I think there's a whole lot we're not being told. I think there's a big covering up, definitely, of this. I think the Smithsonian's only part of that. I think the government itself is covering up a lot of this stuff. And they're doing it for a reason. And like I say, they have a plan. I think there's a plan behind a lot of this stuff. To me, giants existed. I know without a doubt they were very real. They're just too prevalent in folklore, myth, and legend that they did not exist. And they're known all over the world in every culture that you encounter. So yeah, the giants are there, and I think the remnant of them still remain. And if they're not completely with us physically, they definitely are with us DNA wise, without a doubt.
Yes, for sure. Yes, there are giants. There are giants just right beneath our feet. They're here. They're somewhere. They're being seen. Keep your eye out, y'all, and don't discount everything that we're seeing on the videos and on TikTok. I do believe that a lot of this is real. Okay, a lot of things that we're seeing. Yes, let's see. Makes sense. Okay. Thank you, Andrew, for being here. Let's see. I got another Lavera Lucchini. Thank you so much for that other super sticker. You're very gracious tonight. I appreciate that very much. So Steve says that you and I hold more records than Guinness, Dennis. Okay, so thank you. All right. Well, you guys have a wonderful night. Thank you so much for being here and for sticking with us through this. I know my shows on Thursdays go kind of longer sometimes because we just have a lot to talk about. And this was a very important show with a lot of important information in it. And I hope you guys all take it to heart, and I hope you learned something. And I just want to thank you for all of your support and all the love that you guys show me and to Dennis. And Dennis, I thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. Thank you for being here tonight and for coming back. Thank you for coming back after you left for a little bit and to help me close out the show tonight. So, Dennis, tell everybody where they can find you and about your channel, your YouTube channel, and your books.
Okay. I have 3 shows on every week on Monday night, 9 o'clock p.m. They're all on 9 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And Monday nights, I have The Road Less Traveled with my good friend, Joel Fountain. And Monday nights, Hunting the Shadows. And Friday night, which I'll be doing tomorrow night, Paranormal Point of View. When the view gets above the normal, you got the paranormal point of view. And I also have... make a quick announcement. I'm doing a series of Tales of Terror, sort of the scary stories by candlelight. That'll be on my channel as well. And also, hopefully, starting this Sunday, I will be producing a video series called The Midnight Road: Excursions into the Unknown. Also, my books can be found on Amazon. Just look up Dennis W. Carroll, or if you want to contact me, that's DennisWCarroll.com.
Wonderful. Yeah, you guys go check out Dennis's books on Amazon and at DennisWCarroll.com. And definitely go subscribe to Hunting the Shadows on YouTube if you haven't already. It's a fantastic channel. Wonderful show. Dennis, I love it when you come hang out with me. We have some great conversations for sure. And,
we always have a great time.
We do. We do. All right, everybody. Well, I hope y'all enjoyed this night as much as I did, and as much as Dennis did. Come back and see me on Saturday, like I was saying earlier. Wayne Tothrow's coming on, Paranormal Odyssey on YouTube, and Manimal Research. We were just out in the woods at East Tennessee together last weekend, so he's going to be on the show Saturday night. So, everybody, have a wonderful night. Keep your head on a swivel, and stay safe out there. Dennis, you stay safe out there as well. And I hope you guys had some food for thought, as Barry would say, tonight. And yeah, buckle up, buttercups. We're in for a wild ride these next few years. I just feel it. But just have fun. Have fun while we're here, right, Dennis? And come back and see me and see Dennis. Dennis, you got a show tomorrow night on Friday. So everybody, y'all meet us in the chat over on Dennis's channel. And have a wonderful night. And I will see you guys on Saturday. All right.